Good evening, everyone. It's a great Tuesday, first Tuesday in April. Lala Bright and yours truly are here with Bryan Bowden, who we've known for a while, and he's been all over the place and done all sorts of stuff.
He's in everything.
everything you can imagine.
Awesome.
Big time in the Third Eye podcast,
Yep.
and he's the leading cryptozoologist on Travel Channel and done all sorts of stuff. So we had Santorigo on before, and they've done a ton of stuff together for decades. We are happy to see everybody here because Bryan has a lot of stuff he can share, and we're just going to let him start sharing right now.
Sure. Yeah, I love the titles that they give you for doing shows. It's nice to be recognized by all these different, products, being on, I guess, TV or Discovery Plus and whatever. But it's a lot more, imaginary than actual glamour or anything like that. Some people do great jobs with it and they treat you like a professional. And others, it's just you're just the help. But I've been doing this for a long time. It's something I've been interested in since I was a kid, all this paranormal craziness. I do it all. I do the ghosts, the cryptids, extraterrestrials, ETs, abductions. I don't dabble in demonic stuff. It's above my pay grade. And I have kids and I don't want to bring stuff home with me.
Right.
But I know other people that if we do get something going on, I have a ton of people I can contact or put people in contact with to help them out with their problem. Hey, Cosmic. It's good to see everybody here, including Al Santoriga. And
I'm sorry, just not buying it.
there he is. I always have my own Al Santoriga sound bites. And he's my brother from a different mother, and we do a lot of investigations. Sorry, Al, I had to move to Florida, but there's a lot of strange stuff down here, including Florida, man. But I'm really honored to be asked to be on your broadcast, Orbs, and I love Orbs. I've been a fan of Orbs in general on things. When everybody's saying no, it's dust, I'm like, no.
Right.
You know it and I know it. There's weight involved. And it may be on a molecular level, right? But there's weight involved in a lot of this stuff.
She recorded a visible orb last night over our neighbor's house. Hung out there for 10 or 15 minutes, moved around, and just slowly sunk down and then disappeared.
I don't know exactly what it was because it was big and solid and
bright.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We were talking just before the show started. I originally when I've actually seen at certain different type of locations where people take pictures and you have orbs. I've seen from parties, usually like weddings or confirmations or bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, whatever it is, people will catch orbs there. But if you look at the orbs, there is weight to it. Now, some of the orbs also have some form of it looks like an image. And I there's someone specific. He said, "Look at the orb I caught," and I said, "That looks like a grandmother in the orb." And I said, "What did you guys have grandparents that were not there that passed on?" I said, "Can you send me a couple of pictures?" And one of the grandparents, I think the maternal grandmother, exact
Wow.
image. So I do believe this form of energy, which is light wave based for the most part, is something easier for them to draw on and use as a vehicle. Now, something also interesting, because we were talking about cryptids. I was originally a flesh and blood person. It had to be like Gigantopithecus or something, or Missing Link. But I've had my own personal experiences. Actually, Alan, every time we go out, or whether we're together or separately, you have an experience, and Bob, you're a doctor and a scientist. Um, you have to you add to the hypothesis. Then you go, okay, well, that's that, but this also leads me to boom, boom, boom hypothesis, like 3 other questions. But there was an investigation in 2015. I'm not going to go into the full details because we had a Bigfoot encounter, we had a UFO encounter, missing time, and then a space warp. And I think Al may have mentioned it to you, like a cut in space and time. But we were at the top of a lake, and it was about 2 miles to get there. So you have to hike 2 miles. Now, the road we took is along the Appalachian Trail. In the pitch black, it's still dangerous. But the other road on the opposite side of the lake, and we were closer to that side, is a goat trail. There's no way you're getting through it. But this creature was there. It was communicating to another set of creatures that were probably about 100, maybe 150 yards away from us, different ways with rock knocks, or the tree knock. And then there was 3 of us, and it went whoop, whoop, and the third whoop, without missing a beat, Bob and Lila, it was at the other end of the lake, 2 miles.
Oof.
Now, there was no difference in the cadence of the vocalization. It was the exact same creature.
Oh my God.
And yes, they are good mimics. Someone said, well, maybe there was another one down there. I'm like, no. I at that point in time, I said the only way you can go from point A to point B is if you have the ability to open up a window, portal, if you will, travel interdimensionally and bring it and come out the same end. Now, if you look at the scientific, how they're talking about time travel and space travel, basically you're taking 2 points you want to get to, A and B, and instead of traveling through, you're kind of just making a loop, and you step into it and you come right out at the right part. And that's when everything changed. I think these creatures, and on top of that, with sightings of these creatures, they'll see a physical creature, and as it's traveling, a lot of them use FLIR, that body, the heat, the signature. You can't get away from that. You can't get away from FLIR or mirror. And we'll get into that in a minute. You'll always pick up the heat spectrum. But they watched, great example, Finding Bigfoot. Russ was videotaping what looked like a very large Bigfoot, and the heat signature changed, and then it disappeared, but then he saw orbs. And my theory is that they use the energy, not only that's available to the earth, free energy. We're going to be hearing a lot more about free energy, I think, Bob, in the future. That's where we're going.
Yep.
And it's there. It's the Tesla stuff, 369. It's free. I don't know how they're going to charge us, but they're going to try to.
Yeah.
And they're able to change their molecular structure of their physical being on almost a quantum level. So soft physics, nanoparticles, and convert it into a different form, usually in a light wave or energy. That's where you get the balls of light or the orbs. And then there's usually a pop, because I've seen plenty of reports of like there was a big spark and then they're gone. Now, I think, Bob, if you've taken science class, when you convert energy from one form to another form, you have an event horizon where you need more energy. It uses what it needs and it pops. Kind of like when we go into subsonic transport, that's when you hear the sonic boom. And then that energy is no longer needed, and they're in a different venue. I believe these creatures can do it. I believe the Bigfoot can do it. The Dogman can do it, and a variety of others.
This is awesome. And I've never heard anyone explain it like this. And it's important because, most of us just don't know what the hell's going on at all. And so it's nice to hear it that way that you put it,
It's, I would love to be able to have a physical Bigfoot, to conduct some experiments. That would be the true test of it. I thoroughly believe, and Bob, you've worked in certain areas. We'll just keep it at that. And there's NDAs involved, and I've I've signed a couple of those in my lifetime, and I remember what you said at one point. Like, it was funny when you said it. I just smiled. Like, your job is to lie. It sucks, but it's the truth, because the consequences are really severe. You have to lie about certain things, but no one's talking about it, because I believe that there are individuals within the government, black projects, that actually have a physical Sasquatch and other cryptids, like the Dogman sounds cute. It's not, it's a werewolf, but not the lichen, the changing from man to, it looks like a werewolf.
That's most interesting to me. That's the only thing that scares the shit out of me.
It should.
But I want to know more about it. I want to know your opinion. I just want to know everything you know about it.
Well, there's a guy in chat named Al Santariga who is like, Bri, you got to hear about this. And I was like, I thought they jumped the shark, right? I thought, like, okay, how much crazy crap can we go through, right? This is all and then you start hearing the stories, and then you start questioning it, and then you start talking publicly. And I got a phone call. I don't give out my number to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
My mic keeps going silent. Okay.
Not here.
Not here. I think that's your ears, buddy. Don't take it the wrong way. But let me know.
Get the tomato sauce out of your ears.
Yeah. So I just raised it up a tad bit, but I got a phone call from all zeros on the caller ID, and it just said GOV. And I'm like, okay, what's this? And I literally, I picked up the phone and I said, hello. And the voice on the other end was a male and says, well, you don't believe in this thing? I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, the Dogman, you don't believe in this werewolf creature? I said, well, it's kind of hard to fathom. He goes, well, it's real. I said, I'm not going to tell you who I am, but my job is to go to secured locations around the country where we're having issues with this strange creatures, including Bigfoot, and it's to protect the base and the soldiers. And he said, and he just started going into things that he encountered, and knowing that this individual, first of all, how you got my number, I don't know. I could spoof a box too, but I've seen this before. This is the number the government uses. I've gotten called. I had to call the U.S. Marshals, and when they call you back, it's all zeros, but it says in the caller ID, U.S. Marshals, Southern District, New York, which I called, which is, now you know who you're talking to. I've gotten emails in the same way, and you can't trace them. I'm pretty good about my tech skills, but when you have somebody on the phone and they're talking to you about it, I know that this person has more to lose telling me this than to gain. And there's NDAs involved, but he goes, I'm promising. And he started telling me stuff. And I said, well, is there a way I can contact you? He goes, you're not going to ever contact me, but I may drop some stuff your way. And I said, cool. So it was an eye opener for me. And then I started hearing it and started seeing it, and I'd get certain things. There's a great video of a tall gray, and those are the ones that are 6+ feet tall. I call them the ambassador grays. The little grays are clones. They got about an 80 IQ and they're dumb as rocks. They're the ones that keep crashing the crafts. But that's a separate thing.
Forrest Gump aliens right now.
Yeah, they're literally like, yeah, they are Forrest Gump. Right. So there's a video. I got this video around 2016. I literally got an email, couldn't trace it, couldn't get the headers in. It didn't go anywhere. It was like manufactured. It was clearly South America, and a South American gentleman face to face with probably a 7-foot tall gray. It's the video that went around the ring, the recently. I had that in 2016, and I was just blown away. That was sent to me. But these creatures are real. I have had my own encounters, but there was one with Al Santariga. We were doing an investigation, a paranormal investigation of Letchworth Village, which is basically it was a 28,000 square acre facility in Thales, New York. And it was designed for the mentally challenged, bastard children, mistresses, defects, whatever. It was a throwaway zone. And what they would do is, I think they did some of the trials for a certain, I don't know if it was tuberculosis or polio, one of them. And the way they did that was, they tested it on the people that were part of the facility from age 3 months old to up to 99. And they have a massive grave at one end of the property. So we found the area, and we went in to do an investigation of this area because there's hundreds of bodies that are buried there. And it was fairly recent to when, we went in. Some of the families discovered who the family members, some of the people that were buried there, and put up a huge, they put up a 5 foot or 4.5 foot tall by 6 foot wide concrete block with a plate on there saying who they've discovered so far. There was extra room to do it. So we're doing this ghost hunting investigation. So I'm in ghost hunting mode. And what we did was, when you walked in, you have to park out on a 2-lane road, one in each direction. You walk in about a quarter of a mile, and then you come out to this area, and it borders along one of those electric, cutaways. So all the power lines are there. And so we get there, we get to the point, and what happens is, I said, you know what? We don't know who's coming down the road. Let's put our stuff behind that big plaque to protect our backs, and we'll be facing forward. And then we started doing our own separate investigations. And Al went his way. I went my way. I was doing some EVP work. I was getting some stuff. And there was these dogs that were really big, sounded huge. And Al started getting into a dog man phase. That's a big dog, I'm going to do my imitation of Al at this point, and he's going to kill me after the show. And I'm like, I heard it, but I wasn't focused on it. And we walked around this big mound, and then we walked up a little bit past the big mound. There was a path. We walked through the cutout of the where the power lines go to the other side, and it looked like a really cool place to use for a quad or something. And it was just really cool. And it was a little bit squatchy because they love to use those cutouts of, the cryptids love to use that as a travel way. They pick up some of the energy from the power lines. Okay. And mostly they're never going to be seen. So it's an easy thing. And when we came back, these dogs are barking. And we got to one point, and I had an EMF meter with me, and nothing was really going on that was out of, there was some weird numbers here and there, but we got to a point, and I said, let's try some stuff. If there's somebody here with us, can you make this go up to 69 on the device? And can you please, we're very cordial to these spirits. And basically what happened was it started going up to 69. I'm like, wow, this is great. So Al would say, what about 72? And every time we asked it would go up to that number, and then it would come back down again. Wow. So we were having some kind of interaction. Now I like that, but is it proof? Maybe, maybe not. And I'm looking around, and then I kind of looked up, and at about the 8-9 foot range, a little bit higher, there was a fresh break in the tree branch. And I'm like, how the heck did that happen? I said, Al, take a look. And he looked up at it and he goes, yeah, that's squatchy, because these are big, cryptids. So Al went looking for a stick. He goes, you know what? I'll do a tree knock. And mind you, there are a couple of big dogs barking in the background. You can hear it through the valley. And at one point he tried one tree, it broke. It wasn't solid. He found another one. And the minute he hit went boom. All the dogs shut up. And we were like, ooh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you've heard through other Bigfoot stories, when Bigfoot comes to town, all the animals just shut up. Because when you have an apex predator coming in, they're like,
Yep.
I'm not saying a word because I could be their next lunch. Now, something also very interesting that I did not mention initially is when we walked in to the grave area and we were behind the monument, we set up and we were down there sitting for a moment. These two kids on a 4x4 come flying in, like, we're looking for them. We can't hear them. Like, what the heck's that all about? They drove past us, didn't see us. And yeah, I'll get into that. Stop spoiling it for me, Santa Riga. They flew past us and I found it very odd. And they were talking to somebody. And then I said, well, we'll get up. And we went over. And when they came back, they were like, what are you guys doing here? So they were really brash and abrasive. And I said, well, we're here doing a paranormal investigation. And they said into their microphones, yeah, they're doing a paranormal investigation. We're out of here. They couldn't get out fast enough.
Weird.
And I found that very odd. That was not a normal reaction to what that said to me is they know something's going on that we don't. I always kept in the back of my head. Al even said the same thing. I'm like, they know something's going on. That was weird. Mm-hmm. So we do the tree knock. The dogs shut up. We try to play around with the EMF and it's getting later. And we said, you know what? Let's go back out. We'll go back to town. We'll get some because it's getting darker or later. And we're going to come back when it's dark. So we're doing a day night thing. And as we're walking out on the left-hand side, we notice this little pathway. And Al keeps saying, do you hear that bark? You hear that dog? That's a big dog, big dog. He's like getting a dog man vibe. I'm like, okay, your Spidey senses are picking it up. I'm still trying to be in, turn the flashlight on mode, ghost hunting, whatever they do. And we start walking down and I start walking ahead of them. And we go in at about a quarter of a mile and then it opens up. And this is when things changed.
Uh-oh.
Not standing in front of us, but just above that pathway, there's almost like a campsite type of thing, circular. In the air is a tree that has been pulled out of the ground and the root ball has been turned upside down. And connecting to it are other big trees like an umbrella. And we're like, well, that's unusual.
What?
Yep. And that is, for anybody that doesn't know about this cryptid, the dog man, they like to show off when they do their, when they have certain symbols. And they like to rip trees out and turn them upside down, like really leave a marker, like don't come here. So it was insane. And what's interesting is I had pictures of it. Al had pictures of it. And neither one of us can find it because I know we looked at them together, both of them. And so I'm still looking, but that could be like different hard drives than I had, whatever. But I kept walking and Al stopped. And this is what's so great about Al and I. We know each other well enough that when we know the subject matter, like if something's like not right, we'll say it to somebody and it registers. Right. So, excuse me. And I walk past the, this huge, tree structure and I'm walking down the path and he goes, Bryce, stop. And I said, what, you coming? No, stop. I get this feeling we're being lured into something.
There we go.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to go, but I understood what he was saying. So I said, okay, all right, no problem. We backed out. We didn't go that way. We came out of it. We went back to the car and we drove to town. We had something to eat, get a cup of coffee and some food because we were going to go. This is around November time. So it was actually a nice time of day. It wasn't too cold. But at night it's going to get colder. Let's caffeine up. So we come back at night, and what we do is instead of parking closer to the entrance of where this is, where the cutoff, we went about a quarter mile further up on the road. Again, 2-lane road, no lights on it, sporadic homes, and underneath this lamp that someone made on like, it looked like it was for like a path or a park, like some kind of preserve. It was like a garbage can top with a light bulb coming out of it. We went over there to park. Now, when I got out of that, I was driving in his Jeep. I got out, I'm on the passenger side, and I stepped out not knowing that we were higher up, and I went down a 3-foot grade. So I'm, whoa, I got to be careful stepping in here because it went down 3 feet on a little bit on an angle. So I got back up and we start hoofing it back in, and we have the headlamps on, I think blue or green. And when we come back in, we set up behind the monument, and these guys fly in again. And I said, when they come back, let's stop them and ask them questions. Have you seen anything? So they come back. So we wave them down, and they're like, what are you doing still here? And like, oh, we're doing a day investigation. Like, yeah, they're doing another investigation. We're out. And we said, hey, can we ask you a question? Have you ever seen anything strange here? And they went, no questions. And they took off. Again, very, very strange. They did not want to be anywhere near that location. So we're sitting there, we're going through this whole thing. We do a little bit more walking around this big mound, and then we sit down. And at that point, the moon was, I believe it was almost full. And we're sitting there at this mound, and Al's to my right, and it's getting cooler. So I had the heated jacket, I put it on. And my hand to God, this mist starts rolling in from off of the cutaway, the cutting of the power lines. It was like your classic werewolf, like, I'm looking at him like, Al, is this really happening? And it comes rolling in because, there's a coolness factor. And Al just has this really weird look on his face. And that's not Al. It's just, he has a stupid smile on his face. Not that he doesn't smile, but I know that it was not natural. His camera's not working, brand new battery. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? He goes, nothing, man, nothing. He's smiling. I'm like, no, something wrong. So the problem with Mr. Santariga, sometimes he gets a little too open. And we know we try to protect ourselves. So we protect ourselves before going and coming out.
Yeah.
And you can get jumped, unintentionally. It's just what it is.
Yep.
And we're there for a couple more minutes. The full moon's there. It's this fog is going around us, kind of like any werewolf movie, or like, the old werewolf movies, the black and whites, or when death rode into Egypt in the 10 Commandments. And I'm like, you know what? We need to go. So I said, come on, let's go. We packed up. So we packed up and we start huffing it out, and we get to the road and we see our car. And as we're walking there, we don't have the headlight lamps on because we can kind of see, you adjust to the light. We see this big eye shine by the passenger side of the vehicle. And we're like, wow, is that a deer? That's, or is that that's pretty big. And as we get closer, it gets bigger and bigger, and the eyes get bigger, and it's the eye shine, and it's a little bit more yellowish. And it got cold. I had too much caffeine. I had to use the facilities, but I wasn't going to desecrate a grave. So I didn't do it on there. So I figured when I get back to the car, I'll relieve myself. So Al is in the back throwing the stuff in his car, and I went to the side, and this thing is sitting on its hind legs. It's not a deer. It's bigger than a deer. It's got the Marmaduke ears going up, and you can see the snout, and it's just enough in the shadow, about 12 to 15 feet away, that you kind of can make out there's a big snout there. And I start to open the door, and I put my bag in the door, but I still have a machete on this end in front, one in the back and one on the side. We don't have firearms up there. I don't have a license for it down, up in New York, but whatever. There's other ones. When I go in other states, I'm licensed to carry for protection purposes.
Right.
So I'm there, and this thing is just sitting there, and I'm going, and Al's like, "Get in the car, Bri." I'm like, no, I'm peeing. I gotta go. Come on, you can do it later. I'm like, no, I broke the stream. I'm going. Once you start, it was like an Austin Powers moment. Like you just keep going and going. And I know dogs because my family was into show dogs. They started a kennel club in the Bronx. I know all you need to know about canines. I know all the trainers. And I know that when you urinate in front of another dog, whether, pardon the expression, I am basically telling that other animal, I am the alpha and you're my bitch.
Yep.
A bold statement. Okay. And I'm like, this thing is just sitting there. And I'm going, he's like, get in the car. I'm going to leave without you. I'm like, you're not going to leave without me. You don't want to deal with my wife. He's like, I'm going to leave. And he's screaming, get in the car. Now, what happens is it hits me at the same time. This thing is standing there. I'm 6'1" tall. I'm on a 3-foot grade. That makes me 9 feet 1 inches tall. This thing's snout was about here on me standing, like sitting down. So that means that when that thing stands up,
12-footer.
it's easily 12 feet. And it was wide enough to be like, this is a big dog, a big creature. And all of a sudden,
how long was the muzzle?
Say again?
How long was the muzzle?
The muzzle probably was maybe 2 feet.
God.
Wow.
It was as wide. It was wider than me physically. It was big. Like it was really, really big. And I've seen the Lindenberg.
Yeah, let's not go find any of those.
Hell no, I don't want.
No, you don't want to see that. So what happened was I'm there and I'm like, Al's still screaming, get in the car. Al says it right there in chat. The longest piss ever. And this thing does this. It was the weirdest thing in the world. In one fluid motion, it lowers itself and disappears behind a log, about 12 feet away from me, into the darkness. And the minute that happened, it registered how big I was, how big it's going to be. And I got the goose pimples come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Bryan, get your ass out of here. I hopped in the car. Al took off like Mario Andretti. And all I did was go, go, go. And I'm looking out the side view mirror because I was waiting for that thing. I think it was like, oh, you want to pee in front of me? Oh, you're the boss? Let's find out. And it didn't come after us, but that was pretty damn interesting. That was one of the encounters. I wish I could see it a little bit clearer because I probably wouldn't have, started doing what I was doing at that point. Hey, Mr. Murphy. But another one was fairly recent. It was last year. I went up to a certain spot and I took somebody with me because they wanted to see Bigfoot. And I have a location that I can go to where the path, there's a Bigfoot side and then a Dogman side. And in general, if you have Bigfoot in an area, you're going to have Dogman. And what you have in between is usually like something physical, like a stream or a rock basin or something that says, this is our side, you stay on your side, but
Was
the
this in
Dogman like
Pennsylvania?
say again?
Are you talking about someplace in Pennsylvania?
No,
Right.
this was it was more in like the New York area.
Okay.
It was not Dutchess. I forgot the county near where we normally would go, a little bit north of there. I took some people that wanted to go. One rookie, the other one's like, I want to see the dog. I want to see Bigfoot. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna take you to an area because I don't like to bring them into the area that we have that Al talks about a lot because I want to keep that not only to ourselves, but I want to protect the creature that's there. It's not just about, getting information or finding stuff. And so you usually have a lake, a river, a stream, a rock wall, something that is noticeable that says that's good fences make good neighbors. Yeah, that's what Al just put up. And the problem is you get to a certain point and the path wise. Now, if you go one way, you get to a Bigfoot side of it. If you go the other way, there's dogmen. And I was just trying to make sure there was no stragglers. And the rookie just kept hiking. And I kind of like stopped for a minute to make sure there's no stragglers. And I heard like the help thing. I mean, like, I think he screamed. And like I ran up, I'm like, where are you? You know, and I'm at the, you know, the cutaway. Where'd you go? Left or right? I went left. And as I get to him, he is white as a ghost and standing probably, I don't know, 20 yards, something like that. 60. I mean, it was big. What looked like a juvenile dogman. And this was huge snout, fangs coming down the claws, and it was snarled.
Oh.
And there's like saliva everywhere, and it's just looking at us, and it's so menacing. And this guy's freaking out at this point. And I said, okay, everybody stop. I want you to, let's back out slowly. And they went to turn around. I said, do not turn around. You back out.
Right.
Never expose your back to a predator. That is an ample opportunity for it to go after you. And we backed out. We got to a certain point, and I said, well, we can go to the right. This is the way I wanted you to go. He didn't listen. I said, let's go to the right. We'll go to the Bigfoot. He goes, I want to get the hell out of here. And I mean, I don't blame him. I don't like these cryptids at all. And they're very intelligent, and they purposely will mess with you. Case in point, locally in the area, we have a friend that has a piece of property, a house, and then in the backyard by the garage is like a fishing store. So they operate out of their home. So if you press the front door button, it's like ding. And if you press the back button, it does a different type of ringer. So they know where to go. And at 3 a.m, here's the front door go ding, and the other one's like bing bong, ding, bing bong. So there were 2 of them, and you usually get 2 dogmen at the same time. It's like a pack. They work together. So if you see one straight ahead of you, I will guarantee you have another one creeping up, flanking you. And this thing was playing around.
They got to attack like wolves do in a pack.
100%. Well, it's really interesting. Someone said, what do you think their territorial or their hunting range is? Well, a standard wolf that you would get, you know, in the wild has 150-mile radius.
Yep.
And it's a minimum of that. But I would think it was, you know, minimum 1,500 miles. You just don't know. I've heard stories where a hunter has encountered these things, took the gun up and shot at them. Not a good idea. Do not do that. A lot of times they'll let you go. Don't put the gun at them. And he took off and went 200 miles back down to his house. And somehow they tracked him down, and they scared the hell out of him. Came to his home, ripped up his property. You know, crazy. Yeah, Ron has had a couple experiences at 3 a.m. as well. It is the witching hour, but
Can they come in your so can they materialize inside a home like a paranormal event and people don't know it's them? Like,
so here's the crazy thing. I've seen dogmen do exactly the same thing as Bigfoot. I've seen them on cameras. You get a nice clear image, pretty clear. Game cameras aren't the best. And then you get a movement image. Then you get a white burst, and then you see a little pop in the next one. So I think they have the innate ability as well to change their molecular form and go from physical into interdimensional. Okay, that's one. And that's why you get these pops and these weird lights and what have you. There seems to be a really weird thing with these creatures that almost like a common collective or consciousness.
I was gonna, yeah, okay. Yeah.
And they seem to know whether you meet one on the West Coast or the East Coast or in whatever, they know who you are. Like, and this goes for Bigfoot too. They know there's something about you or the experience, and it gets recorded into almost like the Akash record, right?
Wow.
Boom, there it is. Everybody has access to it immediately, always uploading, and they just know who you are. But what's really interesting about the whole thing is when they mess with you or they want you to come outside, they love peeking in windows and they love jiggling door handles and making mess, and they try to get you to come outside. This is a creature that could rip your door off its hinge in a split second.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of like that old vampire thing, right?
Yeah.
They have to have permission. And I think there is certain laws of the universe that exist.
Yep.
And, they have to have permission to come in, or something A must have happened in order for a retaliation of B. You understand? So an action has to precede something before they can take an action. But there's some reason why they probably can materialize in your home, but for some reason, maybe the home is sacred and maybe there's an underlying universe or a cosmic thread, if you would, where certain things have to get permission to come in before you do it. Case in point, if you understand good versus evil, bad things will happen and they'll tell you in advance, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And if you do not complain about it, then your silence is consent. And there's something about that works, how it works. So I mean, again, I can't prove the universal, law of series, but I'm sure, Bob, there's certain laws that exist, whether, for different types of matter, for different types of light waves, there's a certain frequency or whatever that has to be in place before X, Y, and Z come. And
Yep. Let me answer this question by Alicia.
Sure.
So, do you think group doing things like the show Stranger Things, bringing them into this dimension? Look, go do a study of Montauk Project or other things like that. They tortured the people. They had captive in the program, and their job was to open a portal. Stranger Things is a modified version of the Montauk Project story.
And let me add to this. If you go to my show, which is on every Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 10, 9 minimum, it's called Third Eye Live. It's under my name, @ Bryan, BRYAN BOWDEN. I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago. Her name is Penny Shepard. 2 weeks ago. Penny's a great friend of mine. She was, and she will go into it. She goes into it in the 2 hours we have. She is the original 11 from Stranger Things.
I believe it.
And if you understand what they're doing there and you listen to it, and I'm not doing it to promote my show. If you want to know and you want to see all the connections and she connects the dots,
We want you
go
to
watch that interview.
No, promote it all you want.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it will there's a connection to Mengele and the Nazis, who were very into what we are doing now as far as technology. They were super close when what's his name? Von Braun was at NASA, who's basically our space program. There was a reporter that wanted to talk to Von Braun, and he happened to come in the room, and Von Braun goes, "I'm going to lunch. Why don't you join me? We can do it there." And they were like super close. We're talking about nuclear missiles. That's how close it was. And he said, "You had all this technology so far advanced. Where did you get this? Like, who helped you with it?" And Von Braun, without batting an eye, goes, "We got help from them."
Oh yeah,
I believe it.
Okay. Look up the Glock. It is the ship. And at one point when the war was over 250,000 Nazis disappeared. And what's supposedly happened is they went in the Glock and they took off. Where'd they go? We don't know. Could have been an alternative universe or alternative timeline or parallel. So look at that. But Penny, LA Shepherd, and she'll be on Awake Nation this Thursday. She's on every day. And I'll be on this Thursday morning at 9. That's my segment. She is the original. She is the inspiration for 11, the girl. And it'll blow your mind. This is not delusional. This is, oh my God. So yeah, Montauk is, and they're still doing it, and they're doing it with colliders. Now, as far as interdimensional beings, I've come up with this before. Bob's going to know this answer. The first collider was in Illinois area. Fermlab, right? And they ramped that up and they shut it down as fast as it went up. But because I don't think they realized what they were playing with, and it scared the hell out of them. But at the same time it went up and came down is the same time that the Mandela effect was coined by a paranormal investigator, Fiona Brome, I think her name is. Okay, because she said, "Isn't he dead?" And we've all done that. I thought they were dead, right? My theory is this: when you jack up these colliders and you send energy and you're splitting atoms and you make these explosions, you're not only fracturing our timeline in space, but them around you. Okay, so this is how it's explained. So when it comes back together after you shut it down and it heals itself, if this is our timeline and this is a piece of the other timeline, the top of it, when it comes back together, you start out with, this is the original timeline and this is the new timeline. This is why when people remember the cornucopia that are a certain age up to a certain point, well, we just hook back up into a different timeline that doesn't have the cornucopia. They never had it.
Right.
And right now in that timeline, they're like, when did we get a cornucopia? they're having the same Mandela effect, but with the cracks in these areas, what takes place is it's never a perfect seal. And some of these interdimensional beings, black-eyed kids, shadow people, the Mothman, and also flying humanoids out of Chicago, they happen to come in because they see the cut in it and they can come in. Okay. Now, if you look up and correlate all the black-eyed kid sightings throughout the North America, for example, you will see that within a certain mile radius, you have a university that has a smaller collider in it.
Oh my God.
So, yes. And I believe that what they're doing is they fractured our timeline and they're trying to open up portals, but to where and what and for what reason, right? I don't think it's good. That's what they're doing with them.
I mean, I've had experience, and I think we can flip-flop back and forth.
Sure.
Because, I mean, I swear to God, a couple years ago, the moon stopped having the face, the man on the moon. Yep. I Googled it. Nothing came up on Google except one drawing from somebody. Nothing else. A month later, the face was back on, and Google had all the information again. It was just strange. And I swear to God, Skechers, I was a skateboard girl, and I swear Skechers had a T in the name. I swear to God it did,
Yeah, no, I remember a ton of that stuff. And what, if you haven't noticed in the last 4.5 years, we've had moments where things have changed dramatically. Like we start moving one way and then all of a sudden we come back to another way. And then I believe there is a forces of good and evil in this world. And they're trying to put us into a different timeline because it benefits them in that timeline. And good and evil has been fighting, but we've gained control over it. And I don't think I think the darker side, or I'm going to call it a good and evil. The evil trying to do all these portal stuff. I do think there's a bit of a satanic factor involved in it, and that's why they're trying to do it for whatever their reasons are. But it's really bad.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know the snake is symbolically is, evil or devil, but have you heard of anything like a snake society or whatever? Because this snake, it's a visitation in my dream. It's even showed up with a friend that was sleeping next to me. We had the same snake dream trying to get us. My son had a snake dream, and then that day we saw a 6-foot snake, which does not come around here in the part of Maryland we're in. It's just weird,
Okay. So I'm going to say this to you. If you have a dream and you remember your dream,
What did you?
it wasn't a dream. It was a message.
Right.
And I break up. So when you go to sleep at night, the human, no one understands why we go to sleep. Not even the scientist, the one that walked away from you. They don't know. But I believe we all have a God-given ability. We're made in God's image. I'm not going to debate religion with him. I'm just going to speak. You're made in God's image, and God creates you with abilities because he wants, or she, I say it's a he because if it was a she, we'd all be dressed better. But on top of that, they give you an ability so that you can communicate to God. And there is, we've heard of the Akash record before.
Mhm.
Okay. But what happens is when you go down and you go to sleep and you let everything go away from you, all the craziness and everything that clouds your consciousness, and you get into the REM and the alpha and the theta, what happens is, unbeknownst to you, you connect back to source, you upload, keep it there, and then they download certain things to you. When you remember a dream, dreams are either two ways, very vague. Like I saw, I think Al was in it and he was wearing a tutu and we were eating ice cream, like something really weird. Or it was Al and me. We were in a 67 Chevy and it was red and white interior. It was awesome with candy apple. And we're driving down the road and I could feel the wind. I got like sunburn. And then when we pulled into this, and you know the details, that's not a dream. You are actually experiencing it. And when you wake up and you remember the details or remember, they want you to remember something. So what happens is they download you and they say, they'll tell you, Lala, I want you to remember X, Y, and Z, and I want you to explore it. So you'll remember about the snake, or they'll warn you. And because you're all experiencing the same thing, the probability of it is so large for you all to have the same snake in the same dreams. And then they're giving you a premonition. Now, snakes have different meanings for different cultures. You'd have to look that up, and what resonates with you would be what it is. But usually snakes are, if you go back to the Bible, what did the snake do? It's not a good thing. So maybe they're warning you about somebody coming and lying to you and taking advantage of all of you for whatever the connection is. Then again, it could be a relative that was not nice, that comes back to you. But there's certain people that love snakes. I have a buddy that lives for them. And I'm sure if he had a dream about a snake coming back, he'd be like, oh, that was my pet snake X. Or if you were married to that person and he passed away and like you dreamed of a snake, you're like, oh, so-and-so visited me last night.
Right.
It's not as bad. Right. So that's the difference in them. But when you remember the details of it, there's a point to it. I had a dream. I will all call it dreams because we're sleeping, but I had an experience last night, and one of my friends was there, this guy Arizona, and another person I'm friendly with online was there, and I was doing something to help somebody out, but it was a risky, like I needed, you need certain protections with you on a metaphysical and spiritual realm, and they showed up for it, and I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Which is bizarre because I don't think these two would ever get really well. They may get along somewhat, but not a lot. And they were like, "We're not going to let you out. We're not going to leave you here behind. We're going to be here to help you." And it worked out great. I felt great about it. It was a positive vibe, and we went through some procedure. and I did what I had to do. I forgot the full details. I had it at one point, but with my back going out today, that went out the door. Normally I write it down. But dreams are really interesting. If you remember them, try to write them down. I love, I shut this off at night, but I will actually keep a pen and paper now by my bed. And I love anything with a voice recorder. So you could just spit it out, get it all out. Because especially when you wake up, you're like, all right, there's lollipops and there was this, just get it out, record it, and then you can decipher it because it'll key back into you remembering, and it'll work out really well for you.
Oh yeah.
But,
I think that dreams are very interesting, and you're right. I think we're just in another realm, maybe. And I've been looking up online, and so many people around the world have been seen when they realize they're awake in a dream, right? And it's this thing online. Don't ask the date or the time. And anyway, once they realize they're awake, someone in the dream, their eyes will turn black. I mean, I've had this experience too. It's creepy. I mean, I was in a mall and I realized I was asleep. I said, I know you're here, because I had something that used to like harass and really hurt me in dreams and in the physical for a couple years.
Right.
All of a sudden, this lady walked in front of me and she had pure black eyes. It was just, and everybody's experiencing this.
A lot of people are experiencing that in the black eyes, but don't necessarily know if the black eyes are good or bad at this point. Something very interesting. Al and I were friendly with Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who's a huge paranormal investigator. She was awesome. Fortunately, he's no longer with us. And where Al and I met over in Yonkers, we had a group that met once a month. And yes, that's my YouTube. Go there. I'm going to do a shameless plug. Please sign up. I want to get as many people because I restarted it, and I wish I could just take all the collections of all the different sites I've started and put them, together so I can get those extra people. But I think you'll enjoy the show. So when we were there, a friend of ours was running it, and they usually had some really great guests coming because they were known. They knew them. And Rosemary, unbeknownst to me, was the guest on that Wednesday. And Tuesday night, I was going to sleep. I go to sleep late because my brain goes on, and I start doing extra work and thinking about things.
Same, yeah.
So everybody pretty much goes to the restroom before they go to bed. Whatever, give yourself a break. I shut the lights off and I wait till my eyes adapt, and it's pretty dark in my my apartment. And I go down the hallway. I get to the door of my bedroom, and I can kind of see it because there's enough ambient light from outside that I can see the door. I open the door, and standing in front of me, a little bit taller than me, I'm 6'1", in the shape of a human, a head and shoulders, is this all black thing. And my first reaction, I'm a New York City guy, folks. I went back and I punched right at it. It dissipated. And I'm like, what the hell was that? I took 2 steps in the room, turned to my right where my bed was, and there was another one leaning over where my wife was, like leaning into her.
Oh my God.
And I said, hell no. And I went right at it. And it almost had, I got the vibe like it said, pardon the expression, I don't want to curse, oh shit.
Right.
I'm not kidding. And it dissipated. And from that point forward, that threw me because that was my first shadow people experience.
Right.
And then the next day, which was very interesting, Rosemary was in and she was talking about shadow people. And I said, and I don't believe in coincidences. So maybe that was the experience. So, for whatever reason, but it was really, really cool.
I do. Shadow people are really interesting. I've had 2 experiences. Can we go over just a little bit?
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. It's been an hour, but I really want to hear. Okay. Anyway.
Whatever you want me to do, I will be here whenever. I'll come back.
I'm going to have to get up, though. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, how about 15 minutes?
Yeah, I'll come back in 15 minutes.
Um,
I'm sorry, Brian. This stuff is so
I
bad.
feel good.
It's so bad. I'm so sorry.
No, I send you prayers, healing, recovery, blessings.
No,
You know,
puppy dog. Our puppy dog's with him, so she'll cheer him
that's
up.
fine.
Shadow people. That's an interesting topic. I've had two experiences. One came out of a light in the wall.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I mean,
So-
and it didn't have legs. It had everything else, no legs.
Yep. Here's the key with shadow people. And so most of the time you have a shadow person or the hat man coming to visit you, people get this feeling of like they get scared and their adrenaline goes and they freak out. My personal opinion, this is just my theory. That's their food source, your fear, the adrenaline. Okay. Because anytime that you don't get scared of them, you're not feeding them. So they back away from that.
Yeah.
When I went after these shadow creatures, whatever they were in my apartment, I was not afraid whatsoever. So my whole thing is, if you have these encounters with these shadow beings in your home, and they usually come in the home, it's like Monsters Inc. They come in, scare the hell out of you, like they fill up their batteries, and then they go.
Right.
And they'll come back to you because they know if you're an easy target, of like, oh, I'm gonna go get some lunch. That's kind of cool having a twin shadow figure. But I think that if you're worried about them, just don't fear them. Just
Right.
go in there and just, I know it's easier said than done, but if you're a religious person, empower yourself with the body of whoever and wrap yourself in the golden white light of God, and you say no. And then the minute you flip it, watch how quickly you don't get paralyzed and you don't have the fear and what have you. Yeah.
Exactly.
They are
So
scary in the instance.
they are, and I do think sometimes they come into, at least for me, came into my dreams, because I even saw a woman. I think it's my mom. She was trying to help me, and she said, "Don't fear them. They're really not here." And then she showed me shadow people. It was just the strangest dream. Anyway.
Yeah, I think they straddle different dimensions, which they can do. We've had that before. There's a couple of different situations where you'll get beings that are in different dimensions, and it looks like they're here, but they're glitching, and they're not glitching anymore. And then some of them step in, and some of them step back out, but they're really straddling two different dimensions.
Have you ever seen that? Like, I swear to God, one time I saw a bird. I know scientifically, whatever the hell, but this bird was not moving, and it was in midair.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen glitches before. I saw that fairly recently.
Mhm.
I'm looking and I'm like, that bird's just there. It's just, and it had its wings out, and it
Right.
was like flying. I was driving around the west coast of Florida. And I'm like, and I kept looking, and the bird cat just was there. And I'm looking, I'm waiting for it to, normally they'll go in a circle like a hawk.
Right.
And this thing was just
Right.
And then another time closer to me on the east coast of Florida, I was coming down this one road. I think it was Okeechobee Boulevard, and it was at night. We're coming out of a place, and as I'm driving, I'm paying attention. I saw this weird light on the left-hand side, on the other side of the roadway, and those roads about 4 lanes to 5 lanes on each side. It's just like a long passageway with stores and stuff. And I saw what looked like a UFO, and it was just hovering there. But I was so wrapped up in different traffic, I couldn't stop. I would have stopped in a heartbeat and went back to it and like, what the,
When
I've
was it?
seen glitches.
How many years ago did you see that?
That was last year, actually. That happened last year. And then not long after that was early on. That was probably about September-ish, September, October of 24. And then what was great was December 10th, I believe it was. I took my youngest daughter to the supermarket. It was a Sunday, and we had to get some stuff because she was gonna have, like, we had to pick up milk or whatever it was. And as I'm coming back, we get to this light, and I'm sitting there, and I see these. It's a dot, and then two other dots, and then dot, two other dots, and it's flying from the south of Florida up the north, and I'm like, that kind of has the look of an LED of a drone. There's a certain coloration to these things. And then the red dot on the right-hand side of the lead split in two. And I'm like, I'm fumbling around to get my camera. And my daughter's like, Dad, what's wrong with you? I'm like, film out the window. So I started, if cars weren't there coming, it was very light for, the time, because it's around Christmas. Everybody's doing their thing.
Mhm.
I would have run that red light, and I would have went and chased it down, but I had to wait a little bit longer. They flew up. I went down the street in under 30 seconds, and I'm looking, and they're all gone. So my youngest, who listens to what Dad says, she goes, maybe they went through a window, which he meant a portal. I
Smart.
said, well, they could have. I said, we're going to go down this other road, pitch black, dark road that borders, and not one, but you could see out, not one sign of this craft. So I was like, oh man. And we have some of it on video. And my daughter goes, wow, that was my first UFO. I said, you didn't see one UFO. You saw 7, because there were 7 of them there.
Oh.
So there was, like dot on each end of
that's
the triangle. This split into 2 and then 3 again. So fast forward till the 20, I think it was the 29th. My youngest, she was 12, and she had 3 of her friends sleep over. And I was like, I don't want to deal with 3 12-year-old girls in the house, So I went outside. I'm standing on I'm on my porch, and I don't really drink, because I'm the one picking people up. I'm the one that drive them. So I went inside to get another like Fanta Zero, and it's 10 something at night. And I got up, I turned around, I was walking in, and coming at me is a reddish craft. It's red with spikes on it and a little bit of orange. It looked like flames, and it's going towards me in the sky, probably a couple 100 feet up. It was big, and I'm screaming. I videotaped immediately, from the phone, and I'm screaming for my daughter. You can hear it in the video. It's on my my YouTube. Jordan, and she comes out and she goes, "They're back."
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah. So everybody comes out and scares the crap out of her friends, which I didn't feel good about that.
Right.
It wasn't for her friends to come out. She's like, it's a UFO. And the kids are you, how do you know? She goes, that's my dad. That's what he does. He knows this, whatever. I was like, yes. And everybody watched it. So 4 kids, 12-year-olds were watching it, my other half and myself. And you see the video, and it goes from west to south, and then it's flying, and it boop, disappears.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, you see some real, well, it's Florida. You see a lot of weird things.
You do see a lot of, when I would go visit my parents, there was a lot of shit in the sky, honestly.
Oh, there's reports of a mothership off of Daytona Beach right now that comes out. It's you look up Daytona Beach mothership. It's under the water. It comes back out. And then there's reports of a mothership in the Gulf of America. I'm going to change that again. Mexico, America. And, I mean, there's a lot of reports of this, but the problem I have with a lot of it is what part of it is propaganda and what part of it is actual. Right. Or what part of it is a narrative to make you go one way, smoke and mirrors. Like, I believe the whole disclosure movement. I'm sorry, folks. I don't believe Grush whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, he'd be dead by now, honestly. If
no. I don't believe Lou Elizondo. I appreciate his work as a member of our government and the military. And if you understood what he does for a living, deception, Why does he still have his clearance? And Bob's not feeling well, but that's a great question. And Bob was on, actually, we were on SOR together a couple times. And I said, if this guy is telling you the truth, he never would have his clearance anymore. Just think about that. And a lot of it's hearsay, but I don't call it UAPs. That's made up narrative by the powers that be that want you to think a direction. There will never be disclosure until extraterrestrials want to have disclosure.
Yep.
But if you really want to know, disclosure happened in 1977 globally. And that was with the release of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where Dr. Hynek, who was in charge of Project Blue Book, was even in it. And everything you talk about, the little grays, the exchange of people that went missing with other Americans, and that's when true disclosure came.
I didn't know that.
Yep. Go look at that movie. Watch that movie. It's great. But when you have the guy that's in charge of debunking UFOs who couldn't, and he's there on the one scene, he pulls the pipe out. What a great way to say UFOs and aliens are real. We have a relationship with them without violating your non-disclosure agreement with the military or the government or whoever.
Right. Oh yeah, they tell us things through movies, I believe.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
There's a lot of stuff being told right now that will blow your mind. It's crazy what's going on, but people don't believe it sometimes.
I'll shut up because I know he wants me to wrap it up. I have two
No
things
problem.
to ask you. First of all,
Yes.
I want to know. Oh, go ahead.
No. Yes, I'm all ears. Go ahead.
I want to know about your show, why you started it, the different topics you talk about, and the last question. I have ADD, so here we go. Do you think that we are under this firmament thing, and that we're kind of just the test subjects of all kinds of different species, and that they're just fucking with us? There you go.
Okay, so my show, I had a show. I had several shows. If you watch Spaced Out Radio, Dave Scott will tell you that Bryan Bowden, the man with 9,765 podcasts, all running at once. No, I've had a couple of shows. I had a show with Ron Murphy, who was in chat, and Al Santarega, and I started a show recently because I was a guest a couple of times on a show, the Three Beards podcast, but Craig was kind of tired of doing it.
Right.
And I said, well, I'll take the spot. And I started Third Eye Live because I do have remote. I'm a remote viewer and other abilities, and we won't go into it's no time. But what I wanted to do is not necessarily everything paranormal. I want to know how your third eye, your consciousness, premonitions, and dreams have led you to safety in the path that you have down. And that includes, I wanted a music form, artists, musicians, artists, authors, other people. I want to try to help people with it and leave people with a positive, vibe. And not just talk about ghosts and whatever. It'll always be there. But I want to do something different. And that's why I started it. I like, it's a pain in the butt getting guests, and I have a ton of guests. It's just life takes precedent over certain things, but we have a great guest tomorrow night. Michelle and Wayne Braden, they have the Michigan UFO sighting and paranormal encounters podcast show. Great show. They're going to be on. We're going to talk about how they started, and we have fun. And I do something where we do a little test remote viewing. So if you want to do it next time, I get some images. I put them in an envelope, and then we go through the process where everybody in chat, who I've seen, it's a huge amount of chat, and I appreciate everybody there, except for Al Santarega. No, we do a quick how you remote view type of a session, and you'll be very surprised at how you connect to the objects and how close you get. So we could do that another time. So that's why I did Third Eye Live. As far as the firmament is concerned, it's very interesting. I believe the earth is round. I've seen it from a different perspective. And again, I don't believe I'm delusional, but I've seen it from off planet. I do believe that we have been visited numerous, since the beginning of the creation of the earth by other species. We're not the first advanced species to ever be here by far. And I don't know if there's a firmament in there.
Yeah.
I will hold off until I see a little bit more proof. I don't think it's a matrix technically, but there are some really weird things that take place that can't be explained.
I agree. I do.
Yeah.
I think energetically, I'm on the fence. Sometimes I feel energetically that they kind of keep us here to learn more about us, and because we're eternal, we can bounce from body to body, and they can keep learning. But on the other hand, I don't really know.
Yeah, what's interesting is, this is from my research, with experiences with abductees and science a bit. We have the perfect foundation to create from not only humans but other species. And if you remember high school and male female box, 2 boxes top, 2 on the side. If you go male female, the outcome, female male, male male, female female, it's just the way you can do it. You can create and depict what your race will be. So if you have a reptilian, you'll get more reptilian, some human, more human, some reptilian. You'll get human, and then you get reptilian. And then if you do it enough, you can breed out the human and then start continuing your race. And I believe a lot of them have come here to rebuild their races because they've gotten rid of them. What role some individuals or beings have in changing our DNA and manipulating our past, present, and future? That's a good question. Don't know the answer to just yet. But I'm always asking and always coming up with theories and stuff like that. So we'll figure it out.
Thank you for coming on. I would love for you to come on again. This is really, really cool.
Not a problem. I'd love to come on and I want to thank you, Lala, for you and Bob for inviting me on. I am absolutely honored when someone asks me to. It's not a right, it's a privilege. I think you guys doing a great job. And I used to have people going, I want to interview you. How do I go about it? I'm like, just ask me. I'm not really, I'm not Mr. Special, especially to my kids. They don't care, but if you want me on, just say, hey, send me a message. It's easier to do it through Facebook Messenger. Just say, hey, I saw you on Orbis Paranormal. I would love to have you on my show, or I want to, I have a question. I will answer the questions. I also, just so you know, I do readings for people. Let me just put that up there. That's my card. That's my back. I forecast your future. I do a lot of free readings for people. I've helped out many, many people, and I have no problems with it. I love that. I've stopped many people from hurting themselves, and that's more important to me. And then I do have some private clients that I do paid readings. So if you need a reading, let me know. And that's pretty much it. Check out my show, subscribe, like, and do that for Orbis Paranormal too.
Thank you very much. Last thing, how the hell do I stop this? Maybe I should yell for him. I don't know.
So up in the upper right corner, it'll say end stream.
Okay.
And
So
then when it ends and you see in the left corner of the stream, it says live right now.
yeah.
When that goes to off, you'll know that the stream ended.
And then that's it?
And that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.